I just want to say that Marina Mabre is a bum, and I own her. She shoved me like that was going to change the score. She was out there putting up Angel Reese stats with her 6 points and 8 rebounds. She needs to relax. They tried to gang up on me with 3 players because I cooked their whole squad, and I had to let their bench know after I hit that 3-pointer to shut their asses up.
Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be the face of the WNBA. She earned it. With every no-look pass, every logo 3, every sold-out arena, she didn't just show up, she changed the game. Millions tuned in just to see her. Little girls wore her jersey. Headlines followed her every move. She was the spark the league had been waiting for. But as fast as the spotlight found her, so did the hate. Game after game, Clark has been shoved, scratched, tripped, poked, and slammed to the floor. And the response from the league? Silence. No protection. No consequences. No statement. Until now. Because in one of the most chaotic games of the season, everything exploded. A brutal eye poke. A violent shove. And finally, Sophie Cunningham had seen enough. In the final seconds of a game that already felt more like a brawl than a basketball match, Sophie delivered a hard foul that stopped everyone cold. Some called it reckless. Others called it heroic. The refs called it an ejection. But fans, they saw it for what it really was. A message. A warning. A declaration. You won't keep targeting Caitlin Clark, not without answering to someone. And that's when the story changed. Because this isn't just a rivalry. This isn't just one controversial foul. This is about a league that built its brand on Caitlin Clark and may be tearing it down just as fast. It's about the punishment of a teammate who dared to stand up. And it's about whether the WNBA can survive the fallout of its own failure. This is the Caitlin Clark crisis, and Sophie Cunningham may be the only one who saw it coming.
My name is Sophie Cunningham, and I won't allow anyone to harm Caitlin Clark. During that game, J.C. Sheldon deliberately poked Caitlin in the eye, and then Marina Mabre pushed her down, yet the referees did nothing. I simply couldn't bear it. Seeing my teammate treated this way, I knew I had to step up and do something for her.
Before the headlines, before the highlight reels, before the record-breaking jersey sales, Caitlin Clark was just a rookie, but not like any rookie women's basketball had ever seen. She entered the league with more hype than anyone before her, and with that spotlight came expectations and pressure. But no one could have predicted just how quickly she'd become a target. It didn't take long. In game after game, the signs were obvious. The hits weren't basketball plays, they were warnings. Opponents didn't just try to stop her, they tried to send a message. Hard fouls that looked personal. Elbows to the ribs, shoves after the whistle, clawing arms, grabs at her jersey, shots to the face. And through it all, Caitlin kept playing. She didn't retaliate. She didn't complain. She kept draining threes and setting records. But the pattern was impossible to ignore. It wasn't just the eye test, it was the numbers. Over 17% of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA this season have been committed against Caitlin Clark. That's not just unusual, that's unprecedented. Nearly 1 in 5 of the league's dirtiest fouls, all directed at one player. And somehow, the league didn't step in. The refs swallowed their whistles. The officials turned their heads. Game after game, she was hit, shoved, and thrown to the floor, with no real consequences for the offenders. To fans, it started feeling like the league was fine with it. As long as Clark kept bringing in the views, the ticket sales, the media buzz, what happened to her on the court didn't seem to matter. But to those watching closely, a darker picture was forming. Caitlin Clark wasn't just competing against other players, she was surviving them. And the more she shined, the more she became a threat, not just to opposing teams, but to the old guard of the league who didn't want to make room for a new kind of star. This wasn't growing pains. This was a full-on campaign to humble her, and the WNBA was letting it happen. If there was ever a moment when everything snapped, this was it. The Indiana Fever were already on edge. Weeks of dirty fouls, missed calls, and rising frustration had boiled beneath the surface. Caitlin Clark had taken hit after hit all season, and the officials had barely blinked. So when the Fever faced off against the Connecticut Sun, most expected fireworks. No one expected a meltdown. From the opening tip, the energy was different. The Sun came out physical, aggressive in every possession. The Fever pushed back. Bodies collided, trash talk erupted, tempers flared. It didn't feel like basketball. It felt like something was waiting to erupt. Then came the spark. J.C. Sheldon, mid-possession, made a sudden move toward Caitlin Clark and poked her directly in the eye. Cameras caught Clark wincing in pain, trying to shake it off. The crowd gasped. The refs, silent. It was obvious. Obvious to the fans, to the coaches, to everyone watching. And yet, no whistle, no review. Just play on. Moments later, before the tension could even settle, Marina Mabre barreled into Clark, throwing her off balance and onto the hardwood. It was jarring, almost violent. Yet again, the whistle never came. And that's when Sophie Cunningham decided enough was enough. With less than a minute left, Sophie made a move that changed everything. J.C. Sheldon was going for a fast break layup. Sophie saw her, closed the gap, and delivered a hard, clean, but unmistakably forceful foul. It wasn't a dirty play, it was a deliberate one, a message, a statement, a final straw. Sheldon hit the ground. The crowd erupted. Players rushed to the scene, coaches screamed, officials huddled in confusion, and the arena exploded. 3 players were ejected: Sophie Cunningham, J.C. Sheldon, Lindsay Allen. More could have been. Fans shouted. Commentators scrambled to make sense of what had just happened. TikToks and replays flooded the internet within minutes. People weren't talking about the scoreboard anymore. They were talking about the war that just broke out on national television. But what made this different, what turned it from a scuffle into a scandal, was that fans saw Sophie's foul for what it really was: a breaking point. A player stepping in when the league wouldn't. A message to everyone watching: you don't get to beat on Caitlin Clark and walk away clean. In a league full of fierce athletes, Sophie Cunningham didn't arrive with flashy headlines or massive endorsement deals. But what she brought to the court couldn't be measured in stats alone. She brought fire. She brought backbone. And on that night, she brought something Caitlin Clark hadn't seen much of from her peers: protection. After the chaos, when the dust began to settle and the ejections were handed out, most players would have laid low, played it safe, let PR teams spin the story. Sophie didn't do that. Instead, she spoke clearly and without hesitation. "I won't let anyone harm Caitlin Clark. I had to step in." And that wasn't just talk, it was conviction. Because this wasn't a one-off moment. Sophie had been watching. She had seen the eye pokes, the elbows, the slaps to the face that mysteriously escaped every referee's radar. She had seen the silence from the league office. And she'd seen what everyone else refused to admit: Caitlin Clark was being targeted. And nobody in power seemed to care. So Sophie took it on herself. She didn't just foul J.C. Sheldon out of frustration. She sent a message to every player, coach, and official: if you're going to keep coming after Caitlin, you're going to have to go through me. It was the kind of loyalty fans hadn't seen in a while. The kind of move that instantly changed her reputation, not just as a player, but as a protector. Across social media, reactions flooded in. Some critics called her reckless, but most called her brave. "She did what the refs wouldn't," one fan wrote. "She did what the league was too afraid to do," said another. "She stood up for Caitlin. She did the right thing." And the respect Sophie earned that night, it didn't come from stats or awards. It came from doing what no one else was willing to do. She became a symbol, a line of defense in a league where the biggest star was somehow left unguarded. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She was just done watching one of the most valuable players in basketball get bullied on national television. And even if it meant getting ejected, fined, and suspended, Sophie made her choice. She would take the heat. She would wear the consequences, because someone had to draw the line. The reaction was swift, brutal, and, depending on who you asked, completely backward. Within hours of the Fever vs. Sun game ending, the WNBA handed down its penalties. Sophie Cunningham, suspended, fined, labeled the aggressor. J.C. Sheldon, suspended. Marina Mabrey, avoided ejection but drew heavy criticism. And then came the shocker. Referee Blanca Burns, who oversaw the chaos, received the harshest penalty ever given to a WNBA official for loss of control. It was damage control. The league scrambled to reassert its authority after a game that looked more like a UFC undercard than a professional basketball matchup. But fans didn't see justice. They saw scapegoats, and they weren't quiet about it. Clips of the incident spread like wildfire on social media. Slow-motion replays, reaction videos, hashtag after hashtag. One TikTok showing the eye poke and Mabrey's shove racked up over 1 million views in a matter of hours. But what caught fire most wasn't the highlight, it was the sentiment. Protect Caitlin Clark began trending again. Posts called out the officiating. Commentators demanded answers. Players stayed quiet, but the public was loud. To most fans, the message was obvious. The WNBA had just punished the one player who actually stood up for Caitlin Clark. That decision didn't just anger fans, it confused them. Because what were the alternatives? Let Clark continue getting shoved to the ground game after game? Let refs pretend they don't see it? Let the league pretend it's not happening? People weren't mad that Sophie got physical. They were mad that it had to come to that. And now, the league had a bigger problem. It wasn't just the foul. It wasn't just the brawl. It was the perception that players had to take justice into their own hands, because no one else would. The WNBA could have used that moment to say, "We hear you. We're going to protect our stars." Instead, they said, "Don't step out of line." And for millions watching, that felt like the league punishing loyalty and rewarding silence. What made the situation explode wasn't just the foul or the suspension. It was the double standard everyone saw coming from a mile away. Caitlin Clark plays with edge. She's confident, vocal, and competitive. She's fiery. She celebrates her shots. She stares down opponents. She talks back. In the NBA, that's called greatness. When Larry Bird talked trash, he was iconic. When Kobe stared down a defender, it was legendary. When Michael Jordan barked at refs, fans called it passion. But when Caitlin Clark does it, she's cocky. She needs to be humbled. She brings it on herself. It's not just a media narrative. It's embedded in how she's treated, on and off the court. Her toughness is seen as arrogance. Her confidence is labeled as disrespect. And suddenly, every hard foul against her gets justified with one phrase. Well, she kinda deserves it. That line of thinking didn't come from nowhere. It came from a league trying to have it both ways. The WNBA wants Caitlin Clark's fame. They want her face on magazine covers. They want her jersey sales. They want her fans, her media buzz, her TV ratings, her money. But they don't want the baggage that comes with stardom. And here's where it gets even worse. When Sophie Cunningham stepped up to defend Clark, she wasn't praised for loyalty. She was punished for aggression. Let's be clear. What Sophie did wasn't some unprovoked assault. It was a response to weeks of uncalled hits, eye pokes, shoves, and body checks. She saw her teammate getting targeted, and she did what any real teammate would do. She stepped in. But instead of asking why Caitlin Clark needed protection in the first place, the league made Sophie the villain. That's the double standard. The league wants Clark's shine, but won't shield her from the hate. They'll sell her image, but won't protect her body. They'll celebrate her stats, but not her struggle. And now, it's not just a player being disrespected. It's the very idea of fairness. Fans are watching this unfold and asking, if this is how the WNBA treats its biggest star, how does it treat everyone else? The answer? Not well. And the longer the league ignores it, the louder the backlash will grow. It started as a whisper, a rumor shared in fan forums and under-the-radar sports blogs. But after everything that's happened, the targeting, the silence, the fines, the suspensions, it's no longer just talk. Would Caitlin Clark actually leave the WNBA? It sounds impossible, right? She's the league's biggest name, the one filling seats, selling jerseys, and bringing in national media coverage night after night. But when you zoom out and look at how she's been treated, it suddenly doesn't seem so far-fetched. Clark has taken more punishment than any other rookie in recent memory. Physical fouls, personal attacks, and zero protection from the people who are supposed to enforce the rules. She's been blamed, baited, and battered, while the league shrugs and cashes the checks. And now the offers are starting to appear. European teams with deep pockets. Private investors willing to build a new league around her. Overseas clubs that can pay her 5 times more and guarantee her safety, respect, and star treatment. It's not just speculation, it's real. Meanwhile, fans online are becoming louder with each new incident. Let the league collapse without her. She should go overseas, get paid, and be protected. She owes the WNBA nothing. And then came the stat that made everyone stop and listen. When Caitlin Clark sat out 5 games due to injury, the WNBA's ratings dropped by 55%. That number doesn't just prove her impact, it exposes the league's dependence on her. She's not just in the WNBA, she is the WNBA right now. And if she walks, the ripple effect will be devastating. Ratings will fall. Sponsors will pull back, arena seats will empty, the media frenzy will vanish, and the message to every future college star will be clear. You can dominate, you can elevate the league, but you'll still be unprotected. That's what's on the line. The league was handed a generational star, someone who could redefine what women's basketball means on a national level. And instead of protecting her, they've put her in a position where leaving is starting to make sense. The scariest part, if Clark walks out, she won't be the only one. It started with frustration. Now it's full-blown rebellion. What used to be a united front, fans, players, league executives all working to grow women's basketball, has turned into a war. And at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark. The fans who came to the WNBA because of her. The millions who packed arenas, broke viewership records, bought out jersey inventory, and showed up in ways the league had never seen, are now turning their anger not toward other teams, but toward the league itself. And that's dangerous, because what you're seeing now isn't just Fever fans versus Liberty fans, or Clark versus her rivals. It's a growing divide between the people supporting the WNBA and the people running it. Sophie Cunningham's suspension lit the match. People watched one of the few players willing to stand up for Clark get punished, and it felt like a betrayal. Fans flooded comment sections, slammed the officiating, and started asking a painful question. Is the league trying to humble Clark, or is it trying to get rid of her? Even NBA legends are chiming in. Kevin Garnett, Paul George, Paul Pierce, all called out the WNBA for its failure to protect the very person keeping the lights on. And on social media, it's chaos. Commentators are split. Podcasts are clashing. Hashtags are trending daily. The league is no longer being criticized by outsiders. It's being attacked by its own audience. One fan tweet that went viral said it plainly. "We didn't come here to see Caitlyn get assaulted every night. We came here to watch her play." The worst part, this isn't just noise. It's shifting the culture of the league. Sponsors are watching. Networks are calculating risk. Future stars in college basketball are paying close attention. And longtime fans, those who supported the WNBA through decades of slow growth, are now asking if the league they loved is being destroyed from within. This isn't just a PR problem. It's a foundational crisis. Because once your most loyal, most vocal fan base turns against you, you don't just lose money, you lose trust, you lose credibility, you lose the future. And unless something changes fast, that's exactly what the WNBA is about to do. This isn't just about bad officiating anymore. It's not just about Sophie Cunningham's foul, and it's not even just about Caitlin Clark. This is about a league that is slowly, publicly coming undone. The WNBA is at a dangerous crossroads. For months, it reaped the rewards of Caitlin Clark's popularity. Sold-out arenas, primetime coverage, headlines in major media. All eyes were finally on women's basketball, and it was electric. But now, those same eyes are watching the league unravel. Game after game, physical hits are being brushed off. Players like Clark are being punished for their confidence. The officiating is inconsistent at best, negligent at worst. And instead of taking control, the league appears frozen, paralyzed by controversy it created and now refuses to address. And here's the irony. The player it depends on the most is the one it's treating the worst. Clark isn't asking for special treatment. She's asking for basic protection, something every professional athlete deserves. Instead, she's become the litmus test for whether the WNBA can handle pressure. And so far, it's failing. Sponsors are nervous. Team owners are divided. Media outlets are circling with headlines that sting. Is the WNBA imploding? Caitlin Clark's popularity may be the league's undoing. And the fans? They're losing patience. Fast. Every time Clark is shoved without a whistle, every time a player like Sophie is suspended for defending a teammate, every time the league posts a vague statement and pretends it's handled, that trust erodes. And here's the real problem. This isn't just one season. This is the season the WNBA had to get right, the moment it could have finally broken through to the mainstream. The chance to grow into a league that stood not just for basketball, but for fairness, respect, and star power. Instead, it let resentment fester, let grudges dictate gameplay, let its biggest star take hit after hit while doing nothing to stop it. The Sophie Cunningham moment wasn't just about one foul. It was about a league being tested and failing that test in front of the entire world. If they don't fix this soon, if they don't protect Caitlin Clark and rebuild trust with fans, the consequences won't just be PR nightmares or angry tweets. It will be collapse. Because without Clark, without leadership, and without accountability, there may not be a league left to fight for. This isn't just a controversy, it's a reckoning. The WNBA was handed something leagues dream of, a generational star with unmatched talent, media pull, and the power to change everything. Caitlin Clark didn't just show up, she brought a movement with her. She sold out arenas, she boosted ratings, she brought millions of new fans into the fold. She gave the league its first real brush with global relevance. And how has the league responded? With silence, with inconsistency, with punishment. Not for the players targeting her, but for the ones brave enough to protect her. Sophie Cunningham stepped into the storm when no one else would. She didn't care about fines. She didn't care about her image. She saw what was happening and she acted. And instead of celebrating that loyalty, the league used her as an example. They drew the line, not at the physical abuse Clark has endured all season, but at the moment someone finally fought back. That's why fans are furious. That's why trust is slipping. And that's why people are now asking the unthinkable. Would Caitlin Clark be better off somewhere else? Because here's the truth. She doesn't need the WNBA. The WNBA needs her. And if the league continues down this path, protecting its image instead of its players, reacting instead of leading, alienating its fan base instead of listening, then it won't be a question of if Clark leaves. It'll be a question of how long the league lasts without her. This was the moment to get it right, to stand behind their star, to lead with integrity and strength. And now, that moment is slipping away. So here's the question. Has the WNBA gone too far this time? Or is there still time to save everything Caitlin Clark has helped build? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you stand. Because one thing is certain, this story isn't over, not by a long shot.